Hey, welcome to Let's Unravel, and I'm your friend Christina. So hot take, is apple pie the superior pie on Thanksgiving in comparison to pumpkin pie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll let you know my thoughts at the end of this episode. Thanks for stopping by. Whether you're a new listener or friend of the show, I just wanted to say welcome. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And for any of our non-American listeners, you can be our honorary guest at our mini Thanksgiving celebration today. And if that's something you're not interested in, then happy Thursday. I hope work is going well for you. Anyways, so whether you are celebrating with family or friends today, or maybe you have to go to work, hopefully this gets to be a little bit of an exciting part of your day. This is going to be a really special episode today, I promise. Well, hopefully you feel the same way. Now, before we jump into win of the week, you are not going to want to miss out on all the fun that we're having on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Let's Unravel Pod. And now you can get involved on our Facebook page at Let's Unravel Podcast. We'll be polling/posting our weekly hot takes, and we'll also be posting about win of the weeks. This way that you can comment your wins that you're having throughout the week, so we can all celebrate together. So make sure you're checking those things out. So without any further ado, let's roll into our favorite topic here at Let's Unravel, win of the week. So we have two major wins this week, and one of them you're already aware of. It's Thanksgiving. It's a time of celebration, gratitude, and, focus on family and, of course, focus on food. That is what we do very well on this day in particular. And the second win that we have this week is, it was actually my birthday on Monday. I turned 29. That's kind of crazy. I'm in my last year of my 20s. And, I'm having some bittersweet feelings about it, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode. So let's move into our topic of the week. What are we unraveling today? So this week, I have a very special topic I want to talk about. So let's unravel 29 years. Now, I'm going to tell you a little something about myself that I don't always like to advertise because some people tend to have a strong opinion about this. So if I'm going to be completely honest and have this very candid moment, I would say I have hated my birthday for a very long time. It's funny, I tried to backtrack. When was the first birthday that I was like, ooh, I think I hate my birthday? I couldn't necessarily land on one particular year, but I started to realize why I hated my birthday. And a lot of it had to do with expectations, like what was my birthday supposed to look like? I grew up in the time frame of when Instagram started to take off. So you saw everybody posting about everything from the meals they were eating to the birthday parties they were having. And I just remember as you started to hit certain milestones like 16 and 18 and 20, 21, and so on, you started to see everybody celebrating their birthday, and it looked so luxury. It looked so aesthetic, really. That is ultimately what you started to pull away. And all of a sudden, it started to feel like every birthday had to almost look a particular way. There had to be certain expectations if you weren't doing something quite exciting enough. And ultimately, I started to hate my birthday. And it wasn't just because of these expectations. I started to hate it for a lot of other reasons as I started to get older. Once I hit my 20s, I started to feel like every time my birthday passed, I was getting further and further behind. But once again, why was I feeling like I was getting further and further behind? It was always social media, because you got to see all of the people that you graduated high school with, all of your friends, the friends that are either in your life, the friends that you grew out of touch with, and some of them are getting married, some of them are having kids, some of them are starting a podcast. But ultimately, everybody is at a different point in their life. And that was something that as you got older and as you start to have dreams, I think a beautiful representation of this is the episode I did with my sister, Ashley Borys. Go check out that episode. I will have a link for that episode in the show notes down below. But we had talked all about expectations and dreams. When you start to have certain dreams where you're hoping to start a business, or you're hoping to get married or have kids, and all of a sudden those things start to fall by the waistline because maybe you're in your later 20s and you're not married. You haven't found somebody. It feels really devastating. And then when you move into areas like maybe your dream is to have a career, and when you can't necessarily land the promotions that you want, it feels really devastating that as you start to get older, things aren't aligning. And so in a lot of ways, that is why I didn't necessarily love my birthday. And even right now, I can't necessarily say I love my birthday, but I can promise you at this point in time, I have been working probably for the last 5-ish years to come to terms with the fact I don't need to hate it, but there needs to be a way of celebrating it. And that is something that I think is so important. And it's great when you have friends, or it's great when you have family members that are able to, you know what, I'm going to stop for a moment and I'm going to challenge you. If you are anything like me and you hate your birthday, tell someone that you can trust that you hate your birthday. And it's not a pressure for them to make this day extravagant, because that can be a lot of pressure for someone else to try to make it extravagant. Instead, you can go to someone and say, you know what? I don't want to hate my birthday anymore, but I do currently hate my birthday, and I want to find a way where I can grow out of it. And by grow out of it, I mean more growing to love or appreciate it. And so what I'm going to do here today as a little gift for you, but also this is what I'm going to call my time capsule piece. So just like in previous episodes, I believe it was an episode I did with my cousin Katie Bauer, we talked all about how social media, if you use it as a time capsule for yourself, it can be a great place to store memories. That is ultimately what I want to do with this episode. So this episode is more of a time capsule piece for me, but I'm hoping that maybe this will help you somewhere along in your life. And maybe you know someone that hates their birthday or they feel stuck or whatever the case is. Why don't you send them this episode? Because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to give you 29 things that I've learned in the last, 29 years of my life. So, and I promise you, I am not going to drag this out long. These are going to be quick, punchy remarks. And if you guys have questions, drop them down below. And if there's any number in particular or lesson that you liked more that you want to be expounded upon in another episode, drop a comment down below. Guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's resonating with you, what is impacting you, because life can be hard, but we don't have to go at it alone. We can go at it together. So moving into 29 things that I've learned in 29 years. So 1, create an atmosphere to win. So what I mean by this is birthdays. Birthdays can be moments where you can make them intentional. So just like I said, I hated my birthdays, but the reason why I hated them, and I had already told you why, felt like I was falling behind, or I didn't even know what my expectations were for my birthday, but I definitely wasn't meeting them, that's for sure. But the moment that I started to take intentional moments where I was like, how can I make this birthday feel intentional, that I can feel celebrated, that I can be happy for the progress that I'm making? And that's where I started to think about my favorite things. So some of my favorite things is I love to go to new coffee shops. I love to go to a really fancy restaurant. I love a good book. And so the thing is, whether big or small, depending upon where you are in your life, if you have a lot of money, if you have a little money, narrow in on how you can celebrate yourself in those moments. So the years when I didn't have a lot of money, I would go to a coffee shop. I would try to keep my bill under $10 because that's what I could afford. And then years where I had a lot of money, sometimes that's when I would go to the really fancy 5-star restaurant and I would do like a whole chef's tasting, which is really cool. You could do like a 5-course meal. But those were on different moments in my life. But I will say, both of those memories are such great, fond moments in my life. Granted, they cost different things, but they were both great because one of them, when I went to a coffee shop, I would invite a friend or two to go with me. And so you could sit there and it's like, oh, it might have been a $5 or $10 cup of coffee, but we got to talk about our growth throughout the year. Whereas when I went to the fancy 5-star restaurant, yeah, the exciting part was the meal itself, but ultimately set yourself up in a place where you can win. Another place that I had done this is when you're working in like retail, where you're working in industries that don't necessarily slow down or maybe they pick up during the holiday season. What I started to do is I would set expectations for myself where I'd say, okay, what do I need to do to enjoy the holiday season? I started to do this game with myself where it was called like the 3-trick idea. So it was, what are 3 things that I want to accomplish during this holiday season? And they weren't hard things. Like they had to be something that was easy to do and easy to obtain because I'd be working overtime in retail, but I still wanted to enjoy the holidays. So that's where I would be like, watch one Christmas movie, maybe bake one Christmas cookie, and maybe do one Christmas activity. So that Christmas activity could have been drinking hot chocolate while I'm baking Pillsbury cookie dough, that you bought from Target. And boom, I just checked 2 things off my list. And then I had a Christmas movie going on in the background. Really what I was doing was I was creating a space where I could stop and enjoy a moment. So I felt like I was partaking instead of just saying, oh, I'm busy and letting it go. So create an atmosphere where you can win. 2, be kind to yourself. Now, being kind to yourself can look like a couple different things. I would say love yourself. So the way that you talk to yourself is a direct relationship to how you feel about yourself. Now, I haven't always been good at self-talk. A lot of times I've been put it this way, a lot of times I would say to like friends or family, I'd be like, you can't hurt my feelings because whatever you're saying, I've probably already said it to myself like 1,000 times. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm just saying Be kind to yourself, love yourself, set boundaries. And another big one about setting boundaries is you have to respect your boundaries. So if you are going to set a boundary with friends or family or whatever the case may be, if you want to love yourself well, if you want to be kind to yourself, you have to respect the boundaries that you put into place. And kind of like a part 2 to this idea is the moment I started to be kind to myself and I was loving myself and I set standards for myself and even boundaries, a lot of things shifted in my life. And a lot of times the way that translated was if there was someone that I was interested in and dating, and all of a sudden I started to realize I'm putting more effort into them and they're not putting any effort into me, maybe they're not for you. And that sounds so much easier said than done, but those have been moments where I've had to let go. As much as I would love to take control and be like, no, I can make this person love me, like me, whatever. But ultimately, if they're not putting effort into you, they don't want to be with you. And that is something it's easier to learn up front than to give them several years of your life, because both can be painful, but one sticks with you a little bit longer than the other. And it's the same idea even with friends. The friends that want you in their life, they make it known. It's obvious. You don't have to guess. And one of the biggest things I've learned in my 20s is one high quality friend far outreaches having 10 mediocre friends. So if you can find one friend that's really there for you, that can really be like that cheerleader, that understands the different phases of life that you're going through, they respect your boundaries, and they love you, that one friend is so much better than having 10 mediocre friends, ultimately. Now, 3, your 20s go fast. Whether you believe it or not, in the moment, they definitely didn't feel like they were going fast. But at 29, I can tell you this for certain, your 20s go fast. Do the thing that you love and build something meaningful along the way. So use social media. Build a time capsule piece for you. There's so many times in my life where I look back on my Instagram or even my Facebook, and thankfully my parents never let me have a MySpace. Otherwise, I think MySpace would have really been like the death of me as just a person in general. But anyways, there's so many times I look back on my Instagram account and I'm so proud of younger Christina for doing whatever it was that she was doing. And so all I can really summarize it up as your 20s go fast. Do the things that you want to do the things that you love, and build something meaningful. And 4 kind of goes along with number 3, but 4 is take the trip or do the thing. Whatever is on your bucket list. So this past year, I finally made it to one of my dream trips. I had always wanted to go to Paris. And I remember coming home from that trip and thinking, wow, I couldn't believe that I just kept waiting and waiting to go on a trip that I had always wanted to go on. And after I came home, I realized I was like, yeah, don't wait. Go to the places that you've always longed to go. There is never going to be a right time to start something new. There's never going to be a right time to go on a trip. You have to be intentional with the time that you have and just decide, that's it. I'm going to go for it. So if you need someone to tell you to go for it, this is your message. Go for it. And 5, keep a journal, or like I said, take pictures and write as little or as much as you want, because your older self will so appreciate it. There have been moments in my life where I go back to old journals and I love that I've written things. I love knowing the struggles that I went through, whether they seem stupid now or whether they're still relevant now. The thing is, there's nothing cooler than getting to take a moment to step back from where you are at whatever age you are and then getting to look at it. And it's also so cool because you're creating this legacy for yourself where at some point in time, you can pass those journals on, whether it's to your kids, whether it's to other family members. I think about how you never know how in one moment something can touch you, but it's amazing how in another moment it can also touch someone else. So, just a little food for thought. All right, so 6, finding yourself is a beautiful process in your 20s, and you'll continue to do it the rest of your life. It's messy, but even in the mess, there's beauty. I don't think I need to expound upon that, but ultimately, it's okay if life gets messy. And at some point in time, you'll find the silver lining within the mess that can actually be quite beautiful. And it's there. You just sometimes have to look for it. 7, stop faking it till you make it. I've talked about this in previous episodes, and I will say it again. Stop faking it to make it. Instead, let's rewrite it to believe it to be it. When you feel like you're faking something, it breeds imposter syndrome. If you believe that you can do something and you actually accomplish it, once you make it to the other side, so whether you climb that mountaintop, whether you run that marathon, whether you get that job role, if you believe that you can do it, you won't struggle with imposter syndrome. And this is coming from a recovering imposter syndrome person. I've been there. I have gotten whiplash from looking over my shoulder, trying to see if people can figure out if they know I'm faking it till I make it. But trust me, it's better to believe that you can do something than pretend like you're faking something, because at some point in time, like I said, you'll get whiplash. All right. So 8, learn how to pivot in your 20s, because pivoting is an art form. And if you're anything like me, as soon as I say the word pivot, I think of Ross in Friends and he's screaming, pivot, pivot. And I think that is a beautiful representation of your 20s and just the rest of life as a whole. Is there are going to be moments and times in your life where if you can lean into pivoting, if you can learn that it's okay to kind of like change courses, it can project you into a whole new direction. It can be such a successful part of your life if you learn how to pivot well. I mean, if you look at some major companies in the world, like a perfect example is I always think of Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a huge company, but they never learned how to pivot. And they went out of business to Redbox and Netflix and all these other companies because they never learned how to pivot. If they had learned how to pivot, they would have been so much better. And it's the same thing for other companies as well. So seriously, if you want to get to that next level, learn how to pivot, whether it's in your career, whether it's in life, just learn how to pivot. So 9, it is terrifying to create your own way, to move outside of the conventional path, but you have to do it afraid. It doesn't get less scary, but you become more resilient. And that is something that I have learned not only in this process of doing the podcast. I mean, last year I was working in a corporate company. I had the title. Ideally, on paper, I had everything, but I had a longing that I wanted to do something more. I wanted to do something that was really my own. And that is why I'm saying it never gets easier and it never gets less scary. But if you can learn to do things, even when you're afraid, it's amazing how resilient you'll become. And at some point in time, it's almost like you stop listening to the fear. You'll know it's there, but it's kind of just more of a nagging. It's not necessarily this like pounding, earth shattering, like, oh my God, I can't do this, that type of thing. So it definitely gets easier over time, but you also become more resilient. So now 10 is a little bit of a question and a statement, but 10, do backup plans and faith go together? You know, when I was younger, I used to hear a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions about that concept of if you have a backup plan, do you really have faith? And as I got older, I started to think the same thing. Well, if I have a backup plan, am I really believing that it's all going to work out? And I want to tell you something super important. You are stronger than you think you are. And some people, in order to feel strong, they feel more secure knowing they have a backup plan. Other people, they feel stronger and more secure when they don't have a backup plan. Ultimately, learn yourself. Know what works well for you. You know what it takes to be a responsible person. And as long as you are being responsible for yourself and you're taking accountability for your actions, I would do whatever works out best for you. So if you need a backup plan, have a backup plan. If you want to throw the backup plan out the door, throw it out the door. Just focus on the idea. You're stronger than you think you are, and don't stop going. Just keep moving forward. Now, 11 might be a little underrated, but anyone can have $1 million idea. Do you have $1 million work ethic? That's what makes the difference. Anyone can have $1 million idea, but do you have the $1 million work ethic? 12, find your definition for these key words like fun, success, love. When you know what those words look like or you know how to describe them, it becomes so much easier to appreciate those moments in your life. Lucky number 13, shoulds and woulds lead to nowhere good. Let them go and start fresh. 14, do something difficult or challenging. Once I learned that doing something difficult or challenging could actually feel more rewarding and sometimes more fun than whatever the easy, obtainable thing is, it will change your life. That sounds like a crazy overstatement, but I promise you it's true. I think about certain moments in my life when I've done things that are really hard, whether it was working at a startup, whether it was learning how to make croissants, making bread, whatever the case is, things that are a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging. Those are the things that are so much more rewarding because to keep momentum up, to learn something new, it's the most rewarding thing you can do. So find something difficult, find something challenging. It could become your new favorite thing. 15, life is messy, and sometimes you can make a mess of things. If you do, clean up your mess. A personal favorite of mine is 16. Find something that gives you a sense of wonder. For example, I love quality art. So that could be anything from paintings, movies, TV shows. I remember when I was in London this past year, I'd found this really cool modern art gallery, and I hadn't had a sense of wonder quite like that in some time. And so that's why it's so important. Find something that really brings out that emotion of wonder where you're like, wow, this is so cool. That doesn't have to be art. That could be honestly anything. But carve out some time to where you get to indulge that sense of wonder again. Because everybody needs that moment of wonder. It gives you that recharge to keep going. 17, being burnt out is not a badge of honor. Yeah, I said what I said. 18, going to therapy can change the game. Everyone needs someone to talk to. I started going to therapy about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now. It was great to talk to someone that was outside of the environment that I was in. They had clear, sound advice. And on top of it, they have all these tools that they're able to help you with so that you can move forward and get out of the mess that you're in. So therapy, it might seem underrated. It might have a stigma to it, but I highly recommend it. It is so important. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. 19, dream even if you don't feel like it. Dream on paper, dream out loud, just dream in general. You lose a piece of that childlike wonder or excitement or enthusiasm the minute that you stop dreaming. Dreams come in all shapes and sizes. So don't stop dreaming. Do it on paper, out loud. Just keep doing it. 20, try. Try as many things as you possibly can, whether it's in your career or hobbies. The more things you try, the better. It's great because even when you talk to people conversational wise, there's been moments where I've gotten to tell people the variety of things I've done and they've been like, wow, that's insane. That's crazy. But it creates a different well-roundedness in you. And just because you try something and just because you move on from it doesn't mean you failed. Just means you tried. 21, slow down, enjoy the process. Don't forget to have fun. Do something you loved as a kid. The good old days are now if you let them be. I love that phrase from Andy in The Office when he goes, I wish I knew I was in the good old days when I was in the good old days. And I think that's a perfect representation of 21. Just slow down. Enjoy the process. 22. Spend time with your grandparents and learn their stories. At some point in time, you will wish that you had those memories. 23. Keep the promises that you make to yourself. Think long and hard before setting unrealistic expectations for yourself. Just be kind to yourself. You can be your own biggest fan. 24, learn to cook. Start by learning your favorite meal, then focus on that meal until you perfect it, and then move on to another meal. 25, confidence is currency. 26, look at people as stories. The more you're willing to listen, the more they are willing to talk. 27, value people. Be quick to compliment and slow to judge. People always remember the kind words that you say to them. 28, find a mentor, whether professionally, spiritually, or for your personal life. People want to help other people. And last but certainly not least, 29. So instead of 29 being a lesson I've learned, it is a hope. My hope is to make 29 a year that lasts. Not that I mean I want to be 29 forever, but what I mean is I want 29 to be the year that I look back on and think, that was a good year. Make it last. Make it filled of memories, having big dreams. It's better to have dreamed than to never have dreamt at all, which actually just replaced love in that statement. It's better to have loved than to have never loved at all. But I will say this last year of my life has probably been one of the craziest years of my life, going from having big life changes. Like I said earlier, I was working in a corporate company. I had the fancy titles and everything that goes along with that. And the biggest thing that I realized at the end of the day was working in corporate was not my dream. My dream was to create my own path, to venture out, to do something else. So instead, I decided to take the leap. I decided to take a pivot, and ultimately it's led me here. It's led me to this podcast, and doing this podcast has been one of the most challenging things I probably have ever done in my life, just from learning everything on the fly, putting myself on a tight timeline. I gave myself like 2 to 4 weeks to start this whole thing, and then learning how to be consistent with it. Gosh, we're on episode 23, so it is wild, it is crazy, but ultimately, I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me and going through 29 lessons that I've learned in 29 years. And thank you for being a part of this birthday celebration, Thanksgiving celebration, and everything else in between. So thank you for that. So this week, we are not going to be having an episode in a phrase. We are not going to be having any sticky thoughts. And technically, I threw in some quotes sprinkled out throughout the way. So technically, we had quotes, but I don't really have a quote per se. Anyways, so I would love to connect with you more. You can connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Let's Unravel Pod. If you enjoyed this week's show or the podcast show in general, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and now on Facebook. Your comments and 5-star ratings go a very long way. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button or follow button wherever you might listen to stay up to date on all new episodes. We release new episodes every single Thursday, and you are not going to want to miss a thing. Well, I guess it's that time of the episode to tell you my hot take is apple pie the superior pie on Thanksgiving in comparison to pumpkin. Okay, I dare to say apple pie is the better pie in comparison to pumpkin, but pumpkin has a better publicist. That is why Thanksgiving is coined with a pumpkin pie. I'm telling you, that is ultimately what this is. So apple is better, but pumpkin has a better publicist. I'm calling it like it is. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Well, that's all. I'll talk to you guys later, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.